I'm a coin dealer, and 6 months ago we sent in 16 of some of the most interesting counter-stamped coins that I've ever seen, and they came back as some of the highest graded examples of these coins. So my boss gave me a blind unboxing for me to look at these coins for the first time. And I'll let you in on a little secret, the value on these coins after grading them increased by like 2,000%. So make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and watch till the end of the video so you can see what these graded as.
Let's go ahead and crack this open. They did open this earlier when it first came in, just to like check and make sure what it actually was, but I had them retape it just so I could open it back up on camera to see if any of them didn't actually end up getting graded. That's another thing that can happen. It actually doesn't look like, let's check this real quick. That's all the 2x2s that we had them sent in. It looks like all of them did actually end up getting graded. Super nice. All right, so now we're moved over to the light box here, and we're gonna take a look at the first coin. Wow, look at that thing. So this is a sea salvaged 7.5 real. It came back with VF details, and this has multiple counter stamps on it. It's from the Capitana Shipwreck as well. Take a look at those counter stamps. That looks awesome. So these are coins from the Potosi fraud, the 7.5 reals. A lot of them would have been salvaged from the Capitana, and this is a great one to start with. Almost full. You see the full cross here. The other side, you've got the shield. It's in a sort of worse for wear. This side must have been facing downward. That's super nice. The C and a P counter stamp. This is so sick. This is a Bolivia 3.75. So this would have been a 4 real that they took some of the silver off of. Nice details on it. Cool F counter stamp. Also salvaged from the Capitana. This one actually came back with a straight grade VF30, which is super cool for a cob type coin. Weighs in at 11.13 grams. Also from the Capitana. No date on it, but this is awesome. I like this a lot. Next up is another 3.75 real. Again, it would have been a 4 real that somebody took some of the silver off of, and so to mark it as a 3.75 real, they had these counter stamps, and I believe these were actually marked to be melted down, but because they were on this shipwreck, we have some instances of this coin still intact, which is super cool. This one's in a bit worse shape than the last one. In VF details, has that saltwater damage, but it does weigh in a little bit more at 13 grams. Another 3.75 real. This one also VF details. Weighs in a lot lighter at 8.61 grams, also from the Capitana. They marked it as a P. It looks like a P. This one is definitely one of the more saltwater damaged out of the group so far, but it's got a nice reflective surface, which a lot of times you won't actually see. But these are silver coins, despite having been underwater for super long. And here's another 7.5 real. This one weighs in at 21.4 grams, also salvaged from the Capitana. There's that nice L counter mark. And this one's also got a nice shine to it. Nothing super phenomenal here. Graded VF details, but it's cool to have the L here. I feel like if you're wanting to collect from the Potosi fraud, you want to grab at least one from each, one of each of the counter stamps. I'm not sure exactly how many different kinds there are, but so far we've seen a P, we've seen an L, we've seen the crown, an F, and a C. Got another 3.75 real here. This one is actually salvaged from the Maravalis. If you're unfamiliar with the story, the original coins were put on the Capitana. That ship went down, and they sent the Maravala, or the Maravilla, to go salvage the coins from the Capitana, and then the Maravilla also sank. And so if you have coins from the Maravala, they are some of the only double shipwreck coins in existence. There's a handful of other double shipwrecks, but with these ones, you also get the counter stamps. This one's counter stamped with an F. This one graded at VF details, and not as much of a shine on this one. Weighed in at 8.79 grams, but very cool. Double shipwreck coin. Here is another 3.7 real. This one has the crown counter stamp, graded VF details from the Capitana. This one's not the greatest, but a nice example of the crown. It's one of the counter stamps that just didn't have a letter with it. We're about halfway through. And another Capitana 3.75. There's an F counter stamp on here. Looks like we might actually have a double counter stamp. Yeah, so there's the L on the reverse and the F on the obverse. Graded XF details with sea salvage from the Capitana. Weighs in at 10.29 grams. Pretty neat. You don't get a lot of the double counter stamps, but this is a nice example. This here is from the Green Cabin Shipwreck. It's a Mexico 4 real, a little bit of a lesser known shipwreck. It's honestly, I thought that all of the coins we had in here would have been the 7.5s and the 3.75 reals. So it's cool to see we actually sent in a handful from other shipwrecks as well. I like the effect on this one. It's almost like there's an opaque piece of glass in the way of the design, but you can still see the cross here and the shield on the other side. Weighs in at 7 grams. Seems like this one is quite worn away and quite thin, but interesting piece here. And we're coming back into the 7.5 reals. This one salvaged from the Capitana. You can see a small counter stamp right here. They say that's the crowned F, but that might be on the reverse. Interesting. This one is dated, which is cool to see. Looks like we're not putting it on the actual slab though. It is sea salvaged from the Capitana, and I'm guessing that would be our counter stamp right there. I can't make it out. No, I see it. I can make it out now. You can kind of see it right there. It's definitely worn away. All right, next up we've got a great example of the beaded circle crown. Check that out. Very, very nice. It's another 7.5 real, salvaged from the Capitana. It graded at VF30, which is always nice to get a straight grade on a coin. You can see the Potosi counter mark right, or the Potosi mint mark right there, which is always cool to see on a any kind of 8 real from this era, especially coming off a shipwreck. To see the mint mark is always very nice. The counter stamp was graded at AU strong, and for good reason. This is a very nice shield. We've got a nice Concepcion Shipwreck 8 real, graded in at VF details. Really nice castles on the reverse on this one. Nice color as well. It's got the reflective surface, but it still has those darker inlays, which I like to see. This one's actually decently heavy as well. 25.51 grams, almost comes in at a full ounce of silver. And it maybe doesn't have the greatest details on it, but this is a really nice, just eye appeal 8 real, especially from the Concepcion. It's a little bit of a better known shipwreck. So this is from the Capitana, another 8 real, well 7.5 real. Here's that 8 denomination mark right there, which again, it's always cool to see any, determining characteristics on some of these coins, just because they've been underwater for so long. You would expect them to be completely washed away. So whenever I see like the denomination or the mint mark or the date on one of these, I always get a little excited. But this was marked with the Pentagon 1652 counter stamp, which I'm guessing would be just this stamp right here. Much more noticeable than the others. I'm trying to make out exactly what direction it would have been stamped in. I guess sort of like that. It's a pentagon, so I'm guessing it would be much larger on a cleaner strike. That's still interesting. I like to see all the different kinds of counter stamps that they would have had on these 7.5 reals to signify that they were a little bit less silver than they should have been. This one weighs in at 21.25 grams. The counter strike is graded at XF weak, which is, fair to say. Interesting color on it though. 3 more to go. We may have saved the best for last. We got another very clean 7.5 real. This one actually graded decently high, I'll say, in comparison to the others. A VF35. We've got a nice crowned F counter stamp right here. You do see the denomination. There's the 8 right there. Obviously, these are counter stamped as 7.5 reals because the mint masters in Bolivia were taking silver off of the coins. Very easy way to get yourself beheaded back in the 1650s. This one is salvaged from the Capitana, maybe our heaviest real so far, weighing in at 27.75 grams. And that counter stamp got a VF, which it is in pretty solid shape here. Only one counter stamp on it, but this might be our fullest so far of the reals, which is very cool. 2 left, folks. Here we've got another straight grade. Wow, VF30. This one is a 3.75 real, so we're talking pretty solid grades on some of these Potosi fraud Capitana coins. We've got the crowned F counter stamp right here. A little bit worse for wear, but it is one of our nicer 3.75 reals. Weighs in at 13.77 grams, and here's that reverse as well. We do actually have, it looks like 2 counter stamps, one on the reverse and one on the obverse. That's very cool to see. And that did grade straight at VF30. And the last, but certainly not least, we've got the 7.5 real. This one graded in at VF details from the Capitana, and it has 2 stamps. It weighs in at 25.36 grams. Check out those stamps. Very nice presenting on the front. Here's that reverse side as well. Obviously, these coins are underwater for hundreds of years before we find them, but this to have 2 stamps is very, very cool to see. Pardon the sirens. But yeah, that's all the coins that came back from NGC. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching that. I'm very happy with how some of these came back, especially to have any straight grades from a shipwreck is just super cool to see. You really don't see that often. So to have even a VF35 on one of these with the counter stamp is just kind of unreal. So I'm super happy with how these came back. If you enjoyed watching that unboxing, go ahead and leave us a subscription below. Leave a comment on what you want us to do next. Obviously, leave a like. That'll help push these videos to other people. And until next time, happy hunting.